Call the meeting to order at 6. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from July 10th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from July 10th, 2018, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Excuse me. You win that.
I could.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Do you want to add that course?
I will add correspondence from
Yeah.
Elaine Murray.
Yeah,
Is there anything else?
I have nothing.
All right. Then I would entertain a motion to take the agenda out of order and move to members of the public.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's stereo tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So we have a representative from Senior Solutions here to speak to us this evening. We are having difficulty filling the vacancy that we have on that board. So hopefully she'll have some ideas as to how we might go about corralling someone into serving.
Oh, great. Well, first of all, thank you very much for letting me come. And are you talking about finding a member for our advisory board?
If you could find, yes.
Because I realize that you're one of the communities who doesn't have a member. And, you know, we really like to have people from all the communities so we know what you're, you know, we need that connection and your input. So, I don't know a lot of people in Townsend, but.
We're all very young.
Yes, I see that. But if we work together, maybe we can put our heads together, and if you want to even identify somebody and warn them about me, perhaps I could, you know, visit or call them and see if I can help them understand. It's not onerous. It's simply a meeting once a month in Bellows Falls, which will, you know, help. And they don't have to come every month. You know, we're not keeping, you know, close tabs on how many meetings people come to. We just really want to engage all of our communities that we serve. So thank you very much for bringing that up, and I will do my best to help you. The other thing I'd like to also mention is you have a community cares group here, and I would like to say that in the 9 months I've been working with Senior Solutions, I've been like so impressed with the amount of volunteer work and the amount of service these groups do to the people in their community. You know, the government could not sustain itself and pay to provide the services that these volunteer groups provide. And they do it out of the goodness of their heart. And, you know, we really do value them. So if there's anything they need or that they want that they can't figure out how to solve, please let them, you know, encourage them to call our helpline number, which is 800-642-2119. And, you know, we'll do our best to fill the gaps and help provide extra resources and so forth, because we do provide caregiver respite grants, so that a lot of times people are taking care of a loved one who perhaps is now entering, you know, more difficult stages of Alzheimer or other different types of illnesses. And it's very draining on the caretakers, especially when it's 24/7 in their home. So we have grants that are available to give these caregivers a little bit of respite, maybe send them away for a weekend or a week and step in and pay to bring in a friend, a neighbor, or another relative to take care of the loved one during that time period so the regular caregiver can recharge their batteries. And through the training that I've received and others have received on a new endeavor that we're working on, which is our Department of Justice, Office of Violence Against Women, a grant against elder violence, we have learned so much about the importance of intervening before caregivers get burned out. Because so many times the abuse that an older person suffers builds up gradually because the caregiver is just tired, overworked, can't cope anymore. And that does not excuse their behavior. they're still answerable for their behavior. But it's not a good situation for them or for the person they take care of. So please encourage people that you might know who are caregivers to reach out to us and see what we have that we can help them with. We generally have at least once a year a caregivers, kind of like a boot camp. It's like a 6-week course for resources and things that we could do to provide support groups and, again, respite grants. Well, aside from that kind of thing, we also offer 3 squares. And this is for people who are, of course, older, because we take care of people who are covered under the Older Americans Act. That's federal funding, which supports 35% of our budget. That amount hasn't grown over the years very much. It's federal funds. But we also get another 35% from the state, because we have mandated activities and things we have to provide that the state tells us about. And then we add in another 12 to 14% of our budget is through grants. And about maybe 5 or 7% are from like private donations and things like that, and some of the support the towns give us. So we don't charge anybody for any of our services or for any of the programs that we offer. They're all free all the time to our clients. And with that in mind, we have case managers who, when people call the helpline, which is 800-642-2119, we will assign a case manager to that particular issue, so we can follow it, track it, and make sure that we're providing the right amount of care, the type of care they need. We have something called, well, it's not we have it, the government has Choices for Care. And Choices for Care is not talked about a lot. That's because it's a Medicaid program, long-term care. Most of the time when a person goes into the hospital and now they're limited, they can only clinically perform, fewer and fewer of the daily requirements, like they can't go to the bathroom by themselves, they can't dress themselves, they can't bathe themselves. So if they're clinically evaluated to not be able to perform at least 2 out of the rest of all these functions, most of the time the doctor will write a script for them to go into a nursing home. That is not the only thing they can do. They can ask for Choices for Care, which Medicaid will pay to have a caregiver come into the home and provide those particular services for the individual, which is so important because most of the people who are aging, most of us who aren't aging, we would prefer to stay in our own homes, at least in our own communities, and be with people and surroundings that we're familiar with. And it's been proven that people will live a lot longer. And after extrapolating information from our 2019 state budget, I know that it costs over $14,000 a day per person to house someone in a nursing home here in Vermont, and it would cost the state only $7,500 to house that same person in their own home with in-home care. And that's, it's half the cost. So it would help the state save money and use that money for other things that we desperately need. And it would be doing what the people really want. And that's the main thing. We're trying to make sure that we support our aging Vermonters with dignity, keep them healthy, and keep them where they would like to be. So that with that in mind, that's a great program. 3 Squares helps with food. If you have an older person in Vermont on a reduced income, have them call our helpline and see if their reduced income qualifies them for the 3 Squares program. It is really good. The money goes right into their bank account. And with that in mind, if they get 3 Squares, they can take part in the crop cash program. They can take their 3 Squares card to a farmer's market. I know Brattleboro participates. Hand that card to the little booth. They'll take $10 out of the card and give that person $20 in chips to spend that day on fresh fruit and vegetables. So they can double their food budget, and you don't have to just use it once a week or once a month. Wherever you have a farmer's market that participates and you would like to take part in it, do it. They're not counting and saying, oh, you had too much fruit this week. No, it's okay. And also people who participate in 3 squares, if they have minor children in the home, those children are also automatically included in special nutrition programs. We want to keep people healthy. You know, the older population, they've raised their families here, they've worked here, they've taken care of other people. It's kind of like on our chance to give back to them. And because it's older Americans funds and it's state funds that are earmarked just for them, they're not taking away from anyone else for these programs. Because so many times they go, no, you know, somebody else needs it more than I do. Well, maybe they do. There's programs for them. But these are programs specifically designed to keep our aging population healthy and happy. One other thing I would like to mention, we have volunteers who visit. We have a senior companion program, which is federal. A person over 65, if they're on a reduced income, want to volunteer to visit 15 hours a week, they get a small stipend and mileage, and they get the pleasure of finding new friends and helping somebody or other people who are lonely to connect with another human being. I will tell you that many times, and I'm sure you're aware of it, in this rural community that we have here, especially in southeastern Vermont, a lot of times, especially in the winter, the Meals on Wheels food delivery people are often the only human contact that some of our older Vermonters enjoy. You know, we had a case in one of the towns where neighbors noticed somebody's driveway hadn't been plowed for a couple of weeks. So we were able to connect them with a visitor. And the visitor was able to get this person out and engage them in a discussion group. They started to eat again. They were really in bad shape. One to another discussion group, and now the person is trying to join a bridge group, is back in the community. And that the connection is important for another reason. When the aging population is lonely, they get depressed, and they get very vulnerable to financial exploitation, whether from a stranger or from someone that they really trust. Many times it's not reported. In fact, we have found out that only about 5% of all the elder abuse that goes on is ever reported. And we're going to change that through the grant that we received. We're starting in Windsor County. We have multidisciplinary teams from the State's Attorney's Office, Adult Protective Services, Human Services, Social Work, State Police Academy, across the board. We're going to be shining a light on the issue and explaining the different kinds of abuse that exists, and trying to tell people, you know what, you may live in the nicest neighborhood, you might have a lot of money, you might be really smart, but if you get lonely and dependent on somebody, you're ripe to be abused. And many times they don't mean to do it. They start small and it gets out of hand. And all I can say is, if you have a friend or a neighbor or a relative that you know is getting up in years, and you don't hear from them and you haven't seen them for a while, give them a call. Stop by and say hello. You know, bring them, you know, a coffee cake. Do something. Stay in touch with them. Because if you don't, there are perpetrators and predators out there who will. And they'll become that person's new best friend. And before you know it, either something's going to happen to that person, or they'll be left without a home or money that they've saved all their lives for. And we owe it to the people we care about to protect them. So I want to thank you again. You probably can tell this is an issue that I have a lot of passion for. And you wouldn't believe the things that we have learned through this federal grant. We've gone down to DC and to Denver to learn about the law enforcement and the social services and victim services aspects of this. But we're going to be in good hands. Our Attorney General is on board. They already prosecute financial exploitation, and they have an Assistant Attorney General who prosecutes Medicaid fraud. And that Assistant Attorney General is going down in Philadelphia for training with our Windsor County prosecutor. So, TJ Donovan is right on top of this elder abuse issue. And you can be sure between our agencies and the state, pretty soon, I don't think there'll be any place for perpetrators to hide. At least I hope not. And I'm looking to all of you to help point it out and report anything suspicious. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please keep these. And thanks again. You guys are nice.
Thank you. All right, then moving back up to the warrants for July 24th.
I'll make a motion to pay check warrant number 1, payroll, in the amount of $9,175.62.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant number 1 in the amount of $9,175.62, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 2, payroll tax, in the amount of $3,516.84.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll tax warrant number 2 in the amount of $3,516.84, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 3 out of the general fund in the amount of $7,989.03.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 3 in the amount of $7,989.03, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 4 out of the highway fund in the amount of $306.24.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant number 4 in the amount of $306.24, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 5 out of the equipment fund in the amount of $1,643.39.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
A question on a couple Napa POs. You may have been off that week, the week of the 14th, 15th, 16th of July. Ed was purchasing multiple items over several days with the same PO number. So I don't know if if you left him a couple numbers while you were gone, or he didn't call and get additional numbers.
I had left him a book. He probably didn't get the new book. I
You
remember
got a new book, but
I got a new book,
I don't know.
and I used a new book since I got back.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So maybe that's what happened.
that's probably what happened.
And I think there was a Gojo question.
There is a Gojo question.
What's a Gojo?
Again, a Gojo. While you were gone, and Ed was ordering on the 14th, June 14th.
July 14th.
I must have written it down as wrong, yeah, it has to be July 14th. But anyway, Ed got at, 8:58, he ordered a can of Gojo, and then at 9:01, he ordered one.
Yeah,
3 minutes?
I don't know about that.
I mean, it appears from this invoice that the salesman was there. So, but that just seems really funky.
It is.
To have 3 minutes apart on the same day.
Yeah, it's like something got double clicked or something.
Yeah, that's my question. Did we actually get 2 or are we double paying for that?
I will check that.
Okay, so what would your,
We got double billed, so I assume we got double, it may be just one where he called it in and Dave showed up, salesman showed up and said, yep, I'm gonna need some Gojo.
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
3 minutes later.
That's the timing on the sheet.
that's the timing on the sheet.
Yeah. And we get, it's not expensive, it's $12 or something, but we can get a photocopy of it if you want, just from,
No, I'm just,
yeah, take a look at it.
But yeah, it's just a question.
and I'll call you.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'll recommend again, or ask again, not my place here, and I can do this on the sidelines, but on the Napa, especially on the Franklin Auto orders, if you could just use, I'll get you more purchase order books, but use one purchase order number for one. If you're ordering stuff for T2, don't mix it in with ordering stuff for the shop or for the grader or something like that. Because what ends up happening, it takes her it's impossible, but by the time they come print it out, They come on separate pages.
Because I write it down on
Well, I
the
know you do, and that's.
33701 or whatever.
No, but it's a nuisance for you to do that, that you have to go back and think, which is that lamp for, or whatever. You get speedy dry on one column, and then you got a light bulb.
And
on
shop
another one.
equipment, that's
Right,
another chunk of
yeah.
it.
For her to straighten it out, and then to do it off the actual invoice, which is just the master sheet of the bill.
Yeah,
So
we
it
can
gets a
change
little
it,
hard.
I just, yeah,
A
make
little
sure,
hard to split it out for the warrants.
make sure we have enough books, so it's.
Or more books.
Well, one of the other things that I noticed trying to figure that out, because it was really all over the board, was that once the fire department starts ordering parts as well, and we get one invoice that has compactor parts on it, which are the 100 fund, equipment, 200 funds for you, then the fire department, which is going back to 100, and then,
The equipment's 300, right, but then
it
that's
just
the
literally
house.
goes all over the board. So I'm really wondering if it wouldn't be advantageous for every department,
Oh, yeah.
well, to not only go with POs, which they all should be doing anyway, but to have their own ordering number from the standpoint of, they have their own account with NAPA. They can combine the bills and send them to us under
Because
fire
I
department.
have 200s and 300s and a 100 for the company.
Well, but there again, they're still coming on. The 300s and the 200s are pretty easy to identify because those are highway. But then you get things like the compactor mixed in with the fire department and it really starts to be a real mess. So I'm wondering if the town garage should have its own account, for lack of a better word, with Franklin. The fire department, their own account.
Different mailing address kind of thing, so it comes
Just in
just
case.
That would be fine with me,
So-
because I get their slips a lot in my mail.
I'm sure you do. so
And
it's
I
just
bring them back
confusing.
and put them back in.
So, perhaps if we could talk
try to
to
straighten it out.
the fire department and, well, you're always gonna have the 100, the back and forth between those two funds with the compact.
Compactor
Yeah.
is very, very rarely do ever get, unless we change the number of the compactor.
Well,
That's fine.
it's usually pretty well
That's fine.
identified.
That's it.
Yeah, but if we can pull the fire
I call it
department in,
rubbish trucking.
and anybody else that might be using Franklin Auto, make sure they have their own separate identifier. That would make it a lot easier for Elaine.
But they all use PO Box 223.
Well, yeah, and I don't mind it coming on,
Yeah, that's fine, but it could be, Town of Townsend Highway, Town of Townsend Fire.
right, that type of distinction to make it easier for Elaine.
'Cause I even get the WWs, they slips for WW, and they bring them back and turn them in.
That happens as well.
Yeah.
And some of those will be for the
And
town
sometimes
hall.
I'll get 4 of them printed on one thing,
Yeah,
and, well, I didn't get those. and-
I think,
Well,
Matter
you
of fact-
usually keep your originals if they deliver, culverts or something
As a
like
matter of
that.
fact,
We usually get that
I
original.
called you about one.
Oh, yeah, no, that's,
Just-
we see the same things, as long as there's a signature on there or an ordered by number, but Charlie orders stuff for the cemetery from WM, the fire department does on occasion. And that's not too hard to figure out, because there may be 5 or 6
Few-
items that are
few-
bought from WW, but Franklin, there are 5 or 6 on a page, and there are 7 pages or 8 pages, you know what I mean? And it is all kind of jumbled, and it does take some time to ferret it out. If you don't know what you're looking at, it's hard for her, so.
so, anyway, if you could try to figure an easier system out, that'd be appreciated. So, any other discussion on that warrant? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying equipment warrant number 5 in the amount of $1,643.39, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 6 out of the general fund, the amount of $1,987.66.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 6 in the amount of $1,987.66, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. We only have 3 signatures on that. So Steve, so it'd be Crystal and Will.
Oh, did I forget to sign that?
There we go. All right. Then moving on, why don't we start with a report, if you want to do a report first?
I really don't have a lot. I called Fitzpatrick, but I couldn't remember what date they had on the RFP for crushing. They said sometime in July.
And last week of the launch, so they should be starting, and they're getting ready to start anytime, I'm
Well,
ready to set up.
He said it'll be pretty soon. So.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
So he didn't know the exact date he did, so either. these little storms, you know, with little tiny washes here and there, nothing tangible anywhere. Everything's gonna need to be scraped after this week with all the rain we've had. One little pothole will turn into a big pothole. They're still doing work up on the power lines. They did apply for one access permit on Athens Road. Talked to them about that, that's no problem. And the truck traffic is gonna mess up the roads, but once they're done, he said be done in 2 weeks up there, so I'll be hitting that. But been very busy since I got back. This rain has kept us going. Yeah. That's about all I have. Everything is running okay right now.
Any other questions?
I had one thing, just from the last meeting, by the way, I hope you had a good vacation. There was one thing, there was a couple of fairly small parts with huge shipping bills. I just wonder if it was,
Do you remember the
No.
parts?
The lorry is our solid.
is that what it was? Yeah,
Was it a tie rod for a truck?
could have been.
Yeah, that was a tie.
Yeah, it was something that was like a $30 part with $20 in shipping.
It's a pretty heavy part, it's a long tie rod, you know. Part.
Okay. I just wonder if
Long and
we could maybe shop around and find some
we did shop around.
free shipping.
I did shop around and
Okay.
that's why we ended up getting from the lorries.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's something I wanted to.
And I even called other international dealers in the area and they were all in the same predicament too. And even asked Cadam, I did shop around.
Okay.
Question for you, there was a day last week after the rain and the John Deere was out, somebody was over there like a yellow rain suit was running it. Do you know what it was like, maybe Tuesday or Thursday last week? After hours?
Tuesday or Thursday of last week.
Yep.
After hours. I do not.
I was just wondering what they'd be doing, because you got, none of your guys' vehicles were there, and they weren't parked out front, but I saw them driving back.
Our backhoe?
No, our little lawn tractor
Oh, well, could it be Finnegan?
in the rain.
I saw it did get moved. I don't know when he did it. Does the time show it?
What's that?
Does his time show it?
Yeah, there is a card, I think he's got a card in there.
He does it.
But you only had one mowing on the card.
I don't know.
I mean, it was later in the day, because he was up there around 4 o'clock-ish when I
But
was.
usually, he
Because I got a call up there.
usually uses the truck.
Yeah, he takes the truck, but he
They were
mows
driving it down.
around the
Drive it down 35?
Yeah, bringing it back to the, they were pulling into the garage.
I don't know. None of us.
You wouldn't be out.
Put it this way, it brought me to say, I almost turned around and went back, and I said,
Oh, you should have went back.
I don't see
Because the
it.
gate's locked, down your keys, Had to be Finnegan.
You guys working on the camper up there the other
We're
day?
gonna have a time card. He's probably got some piece of paper.
Put it out.
25 minutes.
Park pretty centrally, wasn't he?
I put it out. That would be great. My truck was there, Ed's truck was there, they weren't even there, their keys are in their pocket.
Well, I was just wondering what they were doing with it. I don't know.
If it's Finnegan,
Well, I highly doubt it was Finnegan. If it was Finnegan, I highly doubt he's mowing.
I don't know who can take it.
Yeah, looks like.
Friday.
I thought he did Friday. Yeah, I thought it, because I got called to go up there and unlock the gate, but he was there when I got there.
Arnold was there, and that's why the gate was open.
That's what we did Thursday.
And this time card doesn't show up?
Just Friday.
Wednesday and Friday.
Maybe Arnold was out.
Arnold was driving the tractor? Okay. Yes, on that note,
So no idea who's running it at after hours?
No. I didn't see it. You gotta get the truck, you gotta put the trailer and unload the tractor, because the guy thinks the same pile, you gotta get the keys for the tractor.
No, this person had literally yellow rain gear on. They were pulling into the town garage.
Sure it was our tractor.
John Deere? Well,
Oh, they were on the tractor.
Did it have a loader on it?
yeah.
We don't have a loader on it.
maybe it didn't.
The gentleman that lives down in Light's old place, what's his little tractor? Isn't that gender? You know where I mean?
Yeah.
Could have been him bringing his rubbish in. I have no idea. Throw the
What
bucket.
does Janice get mowed with?
Janice?
Yeah. Do you have a tractor? or anything?
No.
You got a stump?
Yeah.
Is that just a little
That's a-
MTD or something?
All right, well, anyway, the one thing we do need from you are the specifications for the 1-ton, so we can get that out to bid. And I think we also need to have a discussion about the process that we're going, how we're going to put it out to bid, and whether or not we're going to buy something off the rack, for lack of a better word, or just how customized we're going to get with the 1-ton. So, does anybody want to have any thoughts or have any questions, or what's your thought? Oh, okay, go ahead, Robert.
Well, what I was gonna say is I think, if you can put together some specs and we can talk about what we need and what's available, like Kathy said, kind of off the rack instead of trying to.
And what we'll need to know, because one of the things we get into is when we look at buying these vehicles, we don't look at all the costs associated with the specialty pieces. And I'd like to know what this truck is going to cost when we do the bid process, as opposed to then having the add-on for the lettering and the add-on for this and the add-on to put a specialized plow on it, or
Radios and things like that. Those always add in stuff, but.
So if we could have a rough idea.
Well, the plow and the sander and the hydraulic system and the lights would all be part of the bid.
Well, but again, all those little things, let's see.
But
Like the 7-disc changer,
No, we don't
the
have that.
52-point lumbar seats.
I don't even have that, no.
But
Okay.
yeah, we just think-
Last time I got a state bid, it's a plain Jane truck, doesn't have cruise control, and that's what I wanna go with again, because we saved a ton of money last time. By piggybacking.
For the Ford?
Yeah, for the F-550. By piggybacking with them.
Yeah, but how much did you spend on the customization of that? For the
Oh,
dump body?
I don't
for
have the
the-
numbers right now, no. I
See,
don't-
that's what I'd like to have that whole package.
Sure.
So that we know what that final cost is gonna be.
But, I know what you're saying. That's what I did though, I get the equipment and the cab and chassis. It's all one price, I mean, you have both prices when I give it to you. You always have it.
Anyway, it's time to start thinking about it, so we can try to get it out this summer and hopefully get something rolling, but.
It's getting late, I probably won't be done this one.
Okay, is there anything else any questions, anything else? No? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.
Hopefully the rain's not going to do too much more damage.
Do you want to jump down to number 9 real quick?
Oh, do you want to do that?
Not necessarily, just if you had any questions on that, I don't think there are, but.
I don't know what that would be. What Craig's referring to is we have an application for the engineering study for Bridge 43 that came in,
Do you have to sign and whatnot?
yeah.
Yeah, I need a signature and something,
So I don't think there's any particular questions. It's for 20,
Is
I
it
believe it
one?
was.
It's 18,000.
Is it 18,000?
Yeah, that's why I followed through.
Well, it's 20 with the.
Well, and the only thing on that one is that your name is on it, and they try to email you, you do or don't say that they call you or whatever. My email needs to be on that too, because by the time I called the guy to find out, what the hell is this? We're not applying for a grant. You mentioned after town meeting, in a meeting here, is it okay if you chase a grant for the engineering? The answer was yes. And that went through Megan and Mark Pickering at District 2. They handled all the paperwork, sent it up there, everything got typed up and approved, more or less, came back for whatever on an email, the signature, but came back to the garage, didn't come back here. So I had no idea.
I wasn't here.
Oh, I know, but it apparently they tried to get it, well, they sent it through in June is what it was, June 12th or something, and it didn't go through. So anyway, we just got it this week, but that having been said, it's on board for signature, and we'll get it turned around, take a look and start asking about it.
Get that process on
And start talking about engineers, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Get it in there.
Good night, Kurt.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Take care.
Was there, I didn't check my box, was there town clerks?
I
There
did
was
get
not
one.
this week, no.
Okay.
No.
It's not a treasurer's report either.
Okay, so the town clerk's been falling down on the job, has she?
Well,
We're not keeping track of the petty cash, and there's nothing in the bank.
forget to.
Is that what it is? Blame it on her forgetfulness, huh? Okay. I'll be sure to tell her tomorrow when I'm in the car with her.
I'll tell her tonight.
Okay, good for her.
Come around.
We'll each pick on her, how's that? We received just a note from Elaine Murray, and it says to the select board and the road crew, whoops, I should have done this while Kurt was here. I thank you and appreciate the quick manner in which you all dealt with the removal of the tree which fell across Gale Lane and landed on Murray and Moriarty property. I mentioned this one day and it was taken care of the next day. Thank you, Elaine Murray. So I should have done that while Kurt was here, but yes, so that tree was taken care of.
There's a copy of that in his box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Old business, we had our special town meeting on July 19th to discuss the possibility of implementing zoning. The minutes are now they're official and are currently available. There was not a lot of discussion overall, and seems to have quieted down, at least for the time being. So, anybody have anything to say about the meeting, or we just need to put it to bed because we've been leading up to it in the minutes, and now that it's done, we need to
Just want to reference
close out the select board's participation in that meeting.
Yeah, I think,
The meeting was held, great turnout.
yeah, it was a good turnout. I thought it was a very civil and thoughtful discussion. And, the voters made their choices, which is why we did it in the first place.
That's why they came.
Yeah.
All right. Although I have to say right now, I've kept my tongue in my mouth. But I was very disappointed in the article that was in the Reformer, because the reporter made mention of the fact that the select board had called a special town meeting as a result of a petition asking for the meeting, and that was not the case in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But, there's technicalities. We did have a meeting, so
Fake news.
fake news, there you go. Perfect.
Well, and they misspelled the moderator's name, I believe.
Yeah, I think they do. But anyway,
7-1.
moving on, the West Townsend property is going to be the death of me. If I live long enough to see this in, I'll be amazed. I did in fact send a very lengthy email to the attorney asking for guidance as to the amount of money that we should be offering this piece of property for in the lottery. I have not received an answer. I will pursue that again. The one thing that has happened is the listers have gone out and reassessed the property in the new condition, which is one of the things that the attorney suggested. So we have a baseline to start with. I don't think we're going to get to exactly the same amount of money that they say the property is currently worth versus what we have invested. It's going to be close, but I don't know exactly where that's going to land. The one thing I would ask is if we can't get a reasonable response quickly within the next 2 weeks from the attorney about the lottery, do we want to go ahead and just warn it and do it as a bid? Just simply to get this process rolling before we get into bad weather again and go through another winter? That's the only thing I can see that would expedite this, is if we just went ahead and warned it and had an auction and just did it that way. We run the risk of losing a substantial amount of money by doing it.
Well, if you can do the auction with a minimum bid, with a minimum baseline bid, but if you really want to move the property, you may be.
Well, I can get the lottery.
We can't come up with a good number?
I can't get the attorney to tell me that, yes, that's a
But
good
if
number.
we get the attorney to give us an idea of what we owe him or what we've got invested, and then go from there. I mean,
Well,
is the lottery out the window, or is the lottery still
No,
on the
no,
lottery?
the lottery-
Just
the
waiting
lottery-
to figure out the lawyer expense.
I've got everything but the closing costs from that summer. I've already done the math. All the town currently has invested in legal, in missed taxes, in, what else is on that? Insurance.
Well, what we paid for the property plus all the costs of the last 2 years that have accrued. And there is some general speculation as to what might be incurred in the next month or so, although it's kind of anybody's guess. There's a number in our head, and if this were warned for 30 days out or 40 days out, that number would become very focused by the time we got there. So it would come down to, it's not gonna be a lot different than what's on hand right now. And I think that we could go ahead and proceed and begin that process until we, and then find out the number afterwards as to what's gonna be the minimum bid or what that lottery card is gonna say. When somebody drops a name in that.
What do you mean, start the warning process now?
Set a date, basically, that it's gonna happen, say, before Labor Day, if that indeed can happen.
Well,
And go ahead and
that's
proceed
fine.
it, and as long as we have confirmation that we can, and we do, I believe have confirmation that we can indeed have a lottery, then I think we can begin to broadcast that and advertise that.
The question is not whether or not we can have the lottery, the question is at what price do
But I
we
think we
need?
can
So what
advertise that.
number are we waiting for?
We're waiting to find out if what we have invested, since it doesn't completely match what the listers have said the property is
Assessed
worth.
it at.
We have invested a
So
little
we
less
upside
than,
down, is what you're
Right.
saying? Okay.
we've invested a little less than what the listers have assessed for right now.
Okay.
And do we need to have the lottery at what they're listing for, or can we take what the town actually has invested?
Well, if we go over what the town has invested, then we have to distribute those funds, correct?
To her,
Yes.
yes.
And we don't want to do that, so let's try to come up with
Yeah, let's,
the most accurate number we can for what the town has invested, and that's what we'll go for.
Right, I agree with that. We
Okay.
talked about this last time.
Well, we did, but the fact that I can't seem to nail the attorney down on whether or not, we didn't have the reappraisal at that point in time from the listers. That happened the following day. I now know what they say the property is worth.
Right.
Whether or not, we still don't have closing costs figured in yet, we don't have administrative time figured in yet. Is still an outstanding legal bill on that. There are still pieces out that I don't have to add to our total cost. But I don't know if it's gonna make it to what the listers have assessed, is what I'm saying. In which case, if we have to go with what they've assessed the value as, then we're going to end up returning money, is the point.
So couldn't you subdivide that and make up your loss?
No.
Ain't they land enough? You could.
It's an over an acre, you know what, that's $250, and you know how long that would take?
And how much that will cost?
Whoa! But anyway, that's where we are.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I will try to nail down the attorney as to which number we need to use for the lottery. That's my big question for him. And then we'll try to figure out the rest of the costs, everything from the closing costs to the administrative costs, which we have not added
I
yet.
think we're pretty close. I think we need to piece together how this is gonna play, when, start looking at the calendar as to when we're gonna play this in, then start.
All right, so that's.
yeah, I feel like we're close enough to having a number that's viable.
Well, somebody choose a date, so we have a target. And that way I have a target for the attorney.
Let's do,
August 31st.
That would be a Friday night, August 31st, that's a holiday weekend. We have a meeting on the 28th.
Let's do it the 28th.
August 28th.
Okay,
Shoot for.
I mean, my sense is the town wants to offload this property as soon as possible,
that's
correct?
correct.
And anybody that's purchasing this property is gonna need some good weather time to get in there and
Exactly.
either burn it down or start some renovations or close it out or whatever they're gonna do, right? So the sooner the better,
At least get some firewood for the winter.
or something.
Okay, so now that I have a date,
We'll shoot for it.
I'll let the attorney know that I need an answer, and we'll figure out the rest of those costs, get an estimate on the closing costs, and move from there. Then on to grant application for Bridge 43, as we talked about earlier. We have a proposal for an engineering study grant for Bridge 43. And I still can't find it. 18,000 is the award amount. So.
And what's our match on that?
10%.
10%.
10%. Roughly 20 all in.
We're in the 10% category on that, but it shouldn't cost that much, I mean, but that's a high figure.
So I would entertain a motion to
Bridge 42 crosses out.
approve the application for the grant for Bridge 43 for the engineering study.
Who's gonna do the engineering study?
That's, it's a grant, it'll go out to bid.
Go out to bid?
Yeah. This is just to accept the grant.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Do we need to have it studied?
Well, study the engineering study?
Yeah, I mean, just get an engineer. I mean, why, I don't understand why we have to study everything, that they're gonna give us a specs of what they're gonna want for a bridge.
Well, the engineer gets hired to design a bridge on a piece of paper, and then you put it out to bid to a contractor, and they say, yes, we can build this, but
Keep
we
going
won't.
around with
Well-
getting studies and studies and studies. It costs all sorts of money.
The state isn't gonna loan us grant us $165,000 to do the bridge. So the first part of it is you do the engineering by a certified state engineer to draw a picture, and then hopefully they won't change the regulations on bridges by the time we get around to contracting. But the last one was kind of design built, so.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of applying for an engineering study grant for Bridge 43, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. And today is the
2024.
All right, so is there any other, or is there any need for an executive session? Is there any other business? Only other business that I am wondering about would be the Stone Arch bridges. Did we ever get any?
I haven't found out anything. I've made a couple calls.
As to
They're
who
just
actually
wondering.
owns that big bridge?
Oh, yeah, we've had a busy couple of weeks. No, I don't have. I have talked to Charlie at some length about it. So we're in a good place with the Historical Society. And there will be some momentum going forward on the fork, smaller ones, out of bounds. The off-road bridges. And they're looking into those right now, and they have been, they're gonna be looking into bigger grants for that one bridge, original.
And that's fine, but again, we still have to figure out who.
Who has, right, who has the authority to permit it, and that's,
And
we're
who-
working on that.
All right, any other business?
Just wanna know who's gonna clean up the junk on the front of the town office.
I'll take care of it, but
Cigarette
it's not
butts in
my
the trash
junk.
can, and what are we gonna do about that moving forward so it doesn't happen again? It's kind of an eyesore when you walk
We'll
into
get,
town.
we'll get rid of the sandbox out there, and there is a butt receptacle for those who smoke that we had on the porch. The problem with that is that not everybody used it, and it encouraged people to smoke on the porch. I can't put it out on the dryer or in the lawn because it'll get all wet. The other problem is that it doesn't extinguish the cigarette butts, you just throw them in there, well, when you get that many that are out,
It lights itself on
it
fire.
up, and it smolders, and it comes into Anita's office, so it becomes one of those things that just stinks.
Is there smoking on the grounds of the town office?
Well, no,
but
there
there-
isn't. So that's the problem with having a receptacle for cigarette butts. If you put it out, if people go out to the street, then they end up throwing them in the street and or on the lawn. So I mean, that becomes a problem too. As it is right now, somebody's using the sandbox because that's sand that never came inside. That's sand for the sidewalks and the roads. So I'll clean it up. I'll clean it up tomorrow.
Anything else? The next meeting will be August 14th at 6. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 6:50.
Second.
All
So
those in
moved.
favor?
Done.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.